Hey everyone, welcome to House Call. I'm Dr. Rueben Brock. If you follow our page at all, you may know that we haven't released anything in a while. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus, and the easy answer to that is COVID. That's really what caused it. We didn't feel like it was safe or feasible or smart to bring in guests and shoot in the way that we used to during this whole pandemic. And so we've just been on a break. But while we've been on break, I've also been thinking about what we do and how we do it. And so we've decided to completely revamp the show. What we did in the past, we attempted to be something along the lines of a Dateline or a 60 Minutes. We wanted to sort of do investigative work and sort of, or expose type things where we're kind of bringing new news and information, shedding light on things that were happening in certain communities. And it was cool, I believe, what we were trying to do, but we just don't have the bandwidth to do it. The show is myself and the director, Danny Miller, and our PR person, Madison Franish. And there's always at least one intern, but that's it. That's the whole team. There's nothing behind it. There's no budget. It's just me. The show it's my brainchild. It's my pet project. And so I don't believe we have the bandwidth to do what we were attempting to do, and not do it at the level that I wish we could do it at. So I decided that when we come back, we should just be what we can be. And what we can be is a traditional podcast. And so we have revamped the show, and we've got a set, and we're building out the set so that it's a traditional podcast, just myself and Danny Miller having conversations about what's going on in the world. And we'll bring guests in from time to time, but it's really just going to be, me sharing my thoughts on things. And hopefully it will still be enlightening on some level. And so I'm excited. I'm really excited. But the thing I'm most excited about is I'm really, really excited about putting more of myself into the show. And what I mean by that is when we were doing what we were doing before, I attempted to be a little more objective. I thought it was appropriate, if I'm passing myself off as a news source, I thought it was appropriate to try to at least be a little bit objective. And so it shackled me a little bit. I wasn't always willing to just say what I believed because I felt like it was inappropriate to do that. But this new format really gives me the opportunity to just let loose, because anyone who knows me personally will tell you all I really like to do is talk and think about stuff. It's kind of what I live for. And so I want this to be a way for me to get my ideas out into the public sphere, let you all chew on them, and I don't know, if you like them, cool. And if not, we'll talk about it. Let's talk about it. So that's the new idea for House Call. It's still going to be House Call, still going to be me, but just unleashed. Me unleashed. I don't know whether that's good or bad, but we're about to find out. And so we're not there yet. We're not ready. It'll probably take us another month or so to get ready and be able to present the new idea to you in its full form with the set and the whole bit. But I just kind of been chomping at the bit. There's stuff I want to talk about, and there's stuff happening in the world, and I feel like I'm used to having an outlet to talk about stuff, and so I just been chomping at the bit to get at it. And so I decided to kind of do this preview of what's to come, this preview of the new format. And so I thought I'd sit and talk a little while and kind of get used to the new idea, the new way of things. So you guys get to enjoy it. And so the first thing I really want to talk about is the thing that hopefully is on everybody's mind right now, which is this whole COVID thing, the COVID pandemic. And what's frustrating to me right now is that COVID, this pandemic, has uncovered or exposed what I believe to be America's greatest weaknesses. And we have some weaknesses. And in my opinion, we have some weaknesses. And one of the weaknesses that I see right now is that America is falling out of love with knowledge and expertise. And what I mean by that, and this is not a new idea. There are books. There's a book called The Death of Expertise. There is this movement in America away from expertise, education. And what I sense is that people have gotten tired of being talked down to by very, very smart people, very, very educated people who consider themselves experts in any given thing. And there's probably some pushback against elitism that's in there. And that's a fair pushback because elitism is a thing and it's a problematic thing. And I get that. But we have begun to get away from the idea of expertise in general. And that is very, very problematic. And this pandemic has exposed this, right? Because there are places around the world where the experts told everyone what to do and everyone intuitively knew to listen. And those places are in better shape than we are. It's just that simple. And in America, we value freedom so much that we have begun to lose our relationship with common sense. And so what's happening today is you've got this people not wanting to listen to experts because they're tired of the experts. They're tired of feeling like they're being dictated to by very, very smart people or very, very educated people or whatever they conceptualize it to be. And so there are people out in the world saying, you can't tell me what to do. I'm free. I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do. And I'm not a legal scholar, and I'm not a political scholar. So I can't say whether or not that is a valid argument that we can't be told what to do with respect to public safety. I'm thinking that there's probably some provision with respect to if what you're doing is detrimental on a wide scale, we probably have to stop you from doing that. That's probably a thing. But even more important than that thing is the idea that we should all intuitively know that if all of the professionals in a certain field tell you that this is what you should probably do, and the thing that we're talking about is in their field of expertise, we should probably just listen. And it's frustrating to me that I even have to say that, but it's the truth. It's a thing. So in other words, I have a PhD in psychology, right? And that by no means means that I'm the smartest person on earth or anything other than the fact that I have 12 years of college in this field and 20 plus years of experience in this field, right? Mental health. So if I'm in a conversation with an average person that doesn't have those credentials, right? And we venture in our conversation toward ideas surrounding the human mind, human behavior, mental health, a number of things of which I do have a firm grasp and documented expertise. It doesn't make a ton of sense for someone to hear what I say and go, nuh-uh, here's what I think. And the reason I say that is because one of the problems that people have today is recognizing that all opinions are not equal. Because all opinions are not equal, right? So in order to illustrate this point, let me tell you a story. So I don't know, it's probably 5 or 6 years ago, something like that. I have a problem at my house. There's a water pipe that seems to have burst because there's water shooting out of a wall. Okay. So, I'm a relatively smart guy. I can look down there and see, well, there's a water pipe behind there. It's got to be this. This is what's happening. Okay. So I call my friend Rob, the plumber, In fact, this is the story where we became friends because I didn't know him before that. So shout out to Rob the plumber. He's a good dude. But Rob the plumber comes over, and I bring him down into the basement and I show him the problem, and I say, can you do, I forget what I was asking him to do. Can you, I don't know, fix that pipe right there? And he gets out his flashlight and he's looking in crevices and he's checking out and he's, and he's just looking around, and we're 3 minutes. He's looking around at stuff. Right. And I'm like, all right, so you think you can do it? And he says, well, no, I'm not going to do the thing you just asked me to do, but I'll do this because that's your problem. And I'm like, I'm kind of face scrunched up because what he told me doesn't make any sense to me. And I said to him, now, mind you, I'm not doubting him, right? Because I called him, so I trust him. However, I was confused because I really, in my mind, believed that I had figured out the problem. I'm a relatively intelligent person. I'm looking at the walls, and this is what it's got to be, right? And he says, no, it's not that at all. The problem ain't even over there. The problem's over here. And so I said, you could see all that just in 2 minutes of looking at these walls? And he said, he just paused for a second and he smiles and he says, you know all those books you read? Yeah. When I look at those books, all I see is a bunch of words. It means absolutely nothing to me. But when I look at these pipes, I just get it. And that's why I do what I do and you do what you do. And it was so simple and yet so profound. And I kid you not, I have carried that piece of insight with me for the rest of my days, and I share it often. And it was a reminder to me that although I know a ton about this particular thing, there are a couple of things about which I know a ton. I know lots about music because I studied music, and I know lots about psychology because I study that and I do it for a living. And so I don't do anything related to plumbing. I could probably get a clogged toilet to work again. I'm fairly confident that I could change a faucet or unclog a sink a little bit. But every time I try to, right now, I swear to you, if you go to my bathroom in the master bedroom of this house, there's a bucket under the sink holding the drips of water that I know are dripping because I attempted to unclog the sink myself. And I got it unclogged, but I can't get it to stop dripping now. You know why? Because I don't know that stuff. And I'm cool with the fact that I don't know that stuff. And I like learning that kind of stuff. So I'm like, doing all the stuff, learning, watching YouTube, blah, blah, blah. And I understand now what I've got to go do. I got to go to Lowe's and I got to seal up the pipes. I don't know. I got to do some stuff. And then if I don't get it done right, I'm going to call one of my plumber friends. I got a couple of plumber friends. I'm going to call one of them so they can fix it. When the edge of my expertise in that area is exceeded, I will stop. Right? And plus, it's my sink. So if I tear it out and throw it in the backyard, it doesn't matter. It's mine. However, if you called me and asked me to fix your sink, I would tell you you're dumb. Because I don't know that. Right? I don't know sinks. Right? I would give you Rob's number or my friend Mike's number. I'd give you somebody's number who knows how to do it, but I ain't one of them. And I am able to recognize that. I can see that. And so when someone says to me, what's going on with this virus? I'm going to say, well, let's call my friend Tara. She's a doctor. I'm going to say, I've got some friends at universities around the country, epidemiologists and the like. Because that's who you call about these things. And the problem here in America right now is that all of those people are saying the same thing. Almost invariably, those people are all saying the same thing. And then you got average Joes, regular folks, right? You got plumbers and carpenters and waitresses and teachers saying, Nope, nope, nope. I'm not listening to them. They can't tell me what to do. They don't know what they're talking about, blah, blah, blah. Or they'll start to talk about the way the research is being done and how it's not this and it's not that and blah, blah, blah. And I wish I could impress upon you how frustrating it is as a scientist when someone tells me how my science works. When someone comes to my office and they tell me their diagnosis based on watching YouTube videos, my first instinct is to say, why'd you call me? Why would you wasted your money. If you already know, why'd you call a doctor? But that's what people do today. People believe that because they looked it up on WebMD, they can tell their medical doctor or their mental health professional what their diagnosis is. And by the same token, they believe that they can opine on epidemiology and biology and medicine based on a few hours of YouTube viewing or spending time on Twitter or Instagram or something. And it's because people in America no longer understand fundamentally how these things work. And so I say all that to say, if I'm talking to a carpenter, let's say I call my friend Marlon and ask him to fix something at my house. And then I say to him as he's working, hey man, I don't think that works that way. I think that angle is not right. You got to do this. What I hope that he does is pull out the little, the hammer gun. You know, they got a gun, right? A hammer. It's like, you don't even need a hammer anymore. They got this gun it's a nail gun. It's called a nail gun. I don't even know what it's called, but it's called a nail gun. So I hope he pulls out his nail gun and he shoots me with it. You know why? Because that's how dumb it is. That's how dumb it is for me to tell an expert about his expertise. So when people opine about stuff that's way outside of their expertise, that's what I hear. But I also I want to talk about how we got there. We got there because, at least in my opinion, I believe we got there because we stopped valuing education. We stopped valuing the pursuit of knowledge. Okay. In America, we no longer value the pursuit of knowledge itself. We no longer value excellence, right? There are places on earth where the pursuit of knowledge and excellence is of the highest order. It is embedded into their culture, and it is not embedded into the American culture. America no longer values knowledge, no longer values expertise. In fact, there are places where there are circles in America where education is frowned upon. And what I mean by that is I see it all the time where people are kind of poo-pooing on having gone to college. And it's sort of like, oh, you suckers, you went and got your education and now you have a bunch of debt and blah, blah, blah. And hee hee ha ha. And look at all the people with degrees that don't have jobs. Now, don't get me wrong. There are lots of people with degrees that don't have jobs. And having a degree doesn't make you better or even smarter than anyone. But that has nothing to do with the idea of understanding knowledge itself, understanding expertise, because there are, in fact, experts in any manner of thing. All kinds of things have experts. And so if I wanted to know about like anime or YouTube videos or gaming or something, I'd at least go down and ask my son because he knows more than I do. And I know that he knows more than I do. So in America, we have stopped recognizing. We have lost the ability to recognize expertise. And I think a part of the problem is that today in America, the way our society works, everyone has an equal voice. In other words, you can hear Dr. Fauci on TV or on YouTube. Most people, you go on the YouTube, you go on the social media, and you hear a doctor like that talking about these issues. And then in the next moment, you might hear random dude talking about his conspiracy theory about Dr. Fauci. And the problem with that is that people don't know how to weigh out those voices, right? Because the fact of the matter is, all voices aren't equal. All opinions are not equal, particularly in science. Because in science, there are rules, right? Rules that we must adhere to. In order to protect the common good, we all have to recognize that before we call a person an expert, they've got to jump through certain hoops. And before you jump through those hoops, you don't even have the ability to opine on things. Why? Because we don't want anyone thinking that you know what you're talking about before we actually know that you know what you're talking about. And so there's a system called peer review in the scientific world where we kind of watch over each other and make sure, that didn't make any sense. You can't do it like that. And so ideas are vetted. And so that is why whenever someone with certain credentials speaks, you can trust on some level what they say because they've been put through the ringer, so to speak. Now, as I go there, let me pause and give a caveat. I do recognize that there are several things at play here. So when we're talking about this virus and the vaccine that I hope is coming at some point, it appears to be imminent. I recognize that we're talking about the federal government and that there are many people who rightfully are suspicious of the government. I mean, let's just be honest for a second. I am a black man in America, right? I am fairly well versed in the history of America, particularly Black America. And so it is not lost on me that the United States government doesn't have clean hands. I do recognize that. There's no two ways about it. I recognize things like the Tuskegee experiment. I get it. I get that stuff has happened. And I'm not even saying that the American government is above that right now. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I trust a panel of doctors in spite of all that stuff. In spite of those facts, I'm still going with the doctors every day and twice on Sunday. And I'm going to tell you why. I don't know any doctors. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I don't know any doctors who would willingly put people in harm's way. I personally don't. I've never met anyone who would consider allowing harm to come to people knowingly. You go through too much to get to this level. I find it hard to believe that there are many people who would do that. And more importantly, there aren't enough that you could carry out a massive conspiracy. It wouldn't work. It doesn't work that way, right? There are people like me out there in the world who would say, nope, sorry, no, I'm not going for that. And historically, in the scientific community, anytime those kinds of things have happened, there have been other scholars that said, stop, nope. And those scholars have been able to expose bad science. And so what I'm saying is you got to trust the scientific process. That's first. But, well, no, what's first is you got to trust expertise. You got to trust the very idea that there are people who know more than you about stuff. Right. And that comes from valuing education, because if you are educated, if you are to some degree educated, and I don't mean college, I mean know stuff, read books, right? Not memes, not YouTube videos. Actually read stuff written by scholars. And you could get all of the knowledge that I got in maybe the first 4-6 years of my college experience. You could get it at the library. So it's not about going to college. It's about knowing stuff. It's about understanding stuff. And I believe that in America, we've gotten away from valuing that. Because there was a time in American history where there were lots and lots of people who wouldn't even have been considered for education. And that's a problematic thing in and of itself. Particularly, as an African American, equal access to education has been a problem since we got here. So I recognize that it is not always our fault that we are undereducated. But what I'm talking about is it seems as though we no longer even want to be educated. There are many in America that don't even seem to want education, don't even seem to want knowledge, actual knowledge. And that's a very big problem. And I have some theories about how we got here. Particularly, I feel like back in the 80s when we started to embrace the whole, like, everybody gets a trophy thing. And we no longer worried about excellence and attempting to rise to the top. We no longer tell our young to strive to be the best at anything. Just be good enough, be yourself, be average. We embraced mediocrity as a people, as a country, as a culture. And the end result is you got a whole slew of really dumb people who make bad choices because they don't understand. They don't know any better. And the problem, I'm okay with you not knowing any better. What I'm not okay with is you not even wanting to know any better. That's a problem. It is dangerous for our republic that our populace is this uneducated. And the evidence that we are this uneducated is everywhere. It's all around us. It is in the very idea that our president is who he is. And a knowledgeable body of people doesn't elect this guy. It's just that simple. And I'm gonna tell you why. He's not a solid person, right? Put policy aside for a second, right? Let's just talk about people. He lies all the time, and he, for the most part, doesn't make much sense when he's talking. But many in America actually enjoy that, right? And that's scary, because what it means is they like him because he's talking at their level. And I understand that it probably feels condescending when you've got a Barack Obama speaking eloquently, and telling you what we ought to do. I get it. But what I think is unique about this time in history is that at any other point in history, so it was problematic back in the day when it was sort of a relatively strict kind of caste system where only the elite, the wealthy, would have gotten the education, would have gotten the opportunities to rise to certain heights. That's a problem, right? But we have a different problem today. We have the problem that everyone's kind of allowed to do whatever they want to do, but not really encouraged to actually aspire to anything. Because people who aspire to gain knowledge and be good, solid people would not want to be led by somebody like that. It's just that simple. You can want his policies, but we should all be able to recognize that we shouldn't have bad people at the helm, because bad people do bad stuff, right? This is not necessarily a Democrat-Republican thing, because I think there are bad people on both sides of this coin, and that's a problem. It's a problem that we no longer want to be led by the wisest, the brightest among us. We now want to be led by the most popular among us, and that's really scary. It's a really, really scary idea, because I think back to Obama's days, and I remember how many people I saw talking about how Obama didn't know anything and how he was constantly violating the Constitution and all this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, he's a literal expert in constitutional law, like actual expert. And you believe, based on your reading of Instagram memes, that he doesn't know what he's allowed to do. And to actually think that makes any sense. Or people today who talk about AOC and I constantly see people calling her dumb. And I think to myself, can I see your CV, please? I need to know how you came to believe that you had the ability or the expertise to call her dumb. That to me is mind-boggling, and it speaks volumes about where we are as a people, that we are unable to discern expertise when we see it. And so that's a really big issue. But I actually believe that the major issue is that our culture in general is broken. I've been chewing on this for a while, and I've just come to realize that I believe American culture is fundamentally broken, and that it's going to take a miracle to turn the ship around. And here's why. We no longer value the right stuff. That's what I think. In America, we no longer value the right stuff. And so we often talk about, particularly in my circle, I'm always talking to people about politics. And we talk about what the politics should look like. But I'm no longer convinced that this is a political issue. Because for the most part, I don't believe that politicians or government are the answer to any of our problems. I don't believe that they could fix. I don't think they even want to fix any of it. And it's a big thing for me to say that, because I ran for office, and so had I been successful, I would have been one of those people. But what I believe is that by and large, that system is not even meant to fix any problems. Not anymore. It doesn't function in that way. And if it did, they would do everything differently than the way that they currently do it. They would do everything differently than they currently do. I don't think they even want to fix it. And so I no longer believe that it makes any sense to expect that the government or the politicians are going to fix any problem. We have to fix it. We do. Like regular people, we have to do different stuff. And I believe what would have to happen is we would need a cultural shift. We have to change our culture, because I believe that the very idea of America, particularly our economic system, was a bad idea, right? Unrestricted capitalism is a bad idea, because it assumes things that aren't true. And I tell you what I mean. I'm about to drink some, this is hot apple cider. We go to Simmons Farm. We got our tree today. We go to Simmons Farm, and they sell apple cider, and their apple cider is just good. And you put a little cinnamon in it. You heat it up on the stove. Magic. But anyway, our culture is broken, and we have to fix it by thinking differently. And here's my evidence that our system is broken. Our capitalist system, unrestricted free market capitalism, assumes, well, in theory, at least I hope, it assumes that people are fundamentally good and that they won't get carried away. Follow my logic here. Let's imagine we're all walking up to an all-you-can-eat buffet. And the sign says all you can eat for $9.99. Okay, you've all been to an all-you-can-eat buffet. I don't generally like them because I don't eat all that much, and I never feel like I got my money's worth. However, when I go, I'm always able to eat my fill, and I leave, and I'm happy. But the idea of an all-you-can-eat buffet, it really should be all you can eat with an asterisk, because what they really mean is all you can reasonably eat. Because they're making the assumption that no reasonable person would back a truck up to the buffet and take all the food, leave $10 and go home. And so they're making the assumption, yes, you can eat as much food as you want to eat, but no one's going to eat like enough food for 100 people. Because that would be silly. Who would do that? And our system, our economic system, is sort of like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Now, mind you, it's an all-you-can-eat buffet where the prices are different for certain people, and certain people have to eat from the back and aren't allowed to go in the front, and they got to jump over barbed wire in order to get to the food. But that's For this analogy, let's just forget about that for 1 second. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet. And the assumption is that no one would really take more than is necessary. But here we are, a couple hundred years later, however many years later we are. We now see that the assumption that people wouldn't get carried away was a bad assumption. It's a bad idea. We have lots and lots of, well, maybe not lots. We have several billionaires in this country. And we also have millions of homeless, starving, working poor, barely scraping by, no health insurance people in America. Those two ideas don't coincide. They don't make sense together. And in order to prove that, I will go back to my earlier analogy. If you saw a person at the buffet with the truck, and they did it every day, they go up to the buffet and they literally hitch the little buffet cart thing to their truck and they drive away. And they wave at all the people who were in line that now don't have food. And they're like, beep, beep, they said all you can eat, so I'm out. That's America. And yes, the sign says all you can eat. That's absolutely true. But don't be a jerk. Stop being a jerk. Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. And what's interesting to me, let's think about this for a second. Pick any billionaire. I don't know. Jeff Bezos, Oprah, Jay-Z, and Beyonce. It doesn't matter. Any billionaire. Anybody who has that level of wealth. If you have more than $10 million, I'm talking to you. I ain't in this category, so trust me when I tell you. I'm just speaking. I don't know. I don't know what it's like to have $100 million. So call me and tell me if I'm wrong. But I don't think I am. If you have $1 billion, it's virtually impossible that you're driving around in your life and not running into people who are truly poor, right? You know, think about Oprah. Oprah has to, when she drives around, she has to drive past a homeless person. Because you go to any major city, you see people laying on cardboard boxes and sleeping, right? Think about what that means. It means that you have enough money that you could never run out. Ever. It is not reasonable for you to ever run out. However, you're walking down the street, you see a homeless person, you're like, too bad, sucker. Right? And I get it. It's not her job to save every person. Totally true. But think about this for a second. In any given moment, you're making choices, right? So if you are a billionaire and you walk past a homeless person when you're going out to eat, you're choosing because you could hand that person $1 million and that person is now wealthy. They're not only not poor, they're wealthy, right? And if you have $1 billion and you hand them $1 million, you didn't miss it. You're not going to miss it. You're never going to need it. You already have too much. Okay? And you have to choose in that moment to not fix that problem, right? That person is homeless, living under the bridge. You have to choose to not help them. You have to choose to not fix that problem because you do have the bandwidth. You could. Now, I get it, but think about this for a second. I always like to say, I judge all behavior based on my basic principle of first grade, right? If it were kids in the first grade and you saw this behavior, what would you say? So think about this for a second. You got a son. He's 7. You left him at the playground for a little while. Maybe you went across the street and got some hot dogs. You come back. You see him playing. And he got all the toys. He got them all. He got the little truck. He got the Barbie dolls. He got the yo-yo. He got the slinky. He got all the toys. He got the shovel for the sand. He got all the toys. He got the basketball. He got the baseball. He got the mitt. He got all the toys. 50 other kids crying. They don't have toys. He got all the toys. He's playing with one of them, and the other ones are in a locked up pile. Okay. You see your kid, and that's what you're walking up on at the playground. What are you going to say? You're going to be like, good job, kid? No. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows. You be like, boy, if you don't give them kids some toys and act like you got some sense, I'm going to smack you in the head. That's what you would say. I know you would. Everybody would. Everybody intuitively knows that. I am 100% positive that Mrs. Sukal told me to share. I promise you she did. I can't remember the day she told me, but I know she did. Okay? And I know you all had a Mrs. Sukal. I know you did. And so you all intuitively, we all of us collectively, we understand that those are the correct values. We intuitively know it because, I don't know, Jung would say it's just, we were born with that knowledge. But we all definitely know it because we were definitely told, right? Be kind, be loving, share, do the right thing, right? But in America, our culture is such that when we get older, we get to abandon those values. And it is accepted and, in fact, encouraged in America. That's why people love Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a ruthless, cold businessman type who, you know, is unapologetic in his desire to win, right? And that's what people like. That's our culture. That's American culture. And that's a problem, right? And I'm not saying that everybody should have to like share and you know, socialism. And that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is stop being jerks. Like America has a culture. The American culture values being jerks. And that's a problem, in my opinion. And understand, I'm not saying that everybody should just go around fixing other people's problems. That's not really what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, it's the buffet. It's the all you can eat buffet. Once your belly is full, what are you doing? But in America, we have a culture that values wealth. Think about it. That's the American dream. The American dream is you go from being poor to being rich. You pick yourself up by your bootstraps. You work real hard. You do something that people value, and you get wealthy. That's the American dream. So that's what we value. We value the success piece. But we value success. We value wealth more than we value people, which is the only paradigm in which our health system being the way it is would make sense to anyone, right? Where as a healthcare provider, it is not in my best interest to actually do what my clients need most at certain times because it is less lucrative, right? And that's a problem. My well-being being tied to someone else being sick is a problem. Okay, it's not a good thing. But our culture in general is not a good thing because we value that success more than we value people, such that if you're a billionaire, you're headed to lunch and you see a poor person, you think, if I handed them $100,000, I would still have $1 billion, so I wouldn't miss it. And then that person would be completely solid. But I don't want to do that because I would then have less money. Even though I don't need the money because I have enough money, I still need the money more than I need to help that person. That's the process that we go through, right? And it's a fundamentally flawed system because what it means is that now we've devalued people to the point where my stuff is more important than your humanity. My freedom is more important than your humanity because we don't value people, right? So right now, today in America, there are people walking around the grocery store with no mask on because they value their freedom more than they value the 75-year-old dude who's there getting milk and is compromised and vulnerable and really shouldn't be breathing in infected air. But rather than take a precaution that would be helpful for him, I want to be free to not do that because I value that freedom more than I value that person. And that's a problem. And my hope is that eventually we chew on that a little bit and we think about that, and begin to change the way we interact with each other in the world. Because I believe fundamentally that if there is going to be a fall of this republic, it will be this problem. This will be the problem. It will be that we have become so enamored with success and freedom that we no longer value each other, and therefore we pick each other apart. Because that's what's happening right now politically. We are picking each other apart. Today I saw that the governor of Pennsylvania is positive for the virus. He got COVID, and I instantly saw people kind of like laughing about it, joking about it. They're happy about it because he's their political opposite, and that's America. I want my enemies to suffer. And my question is, how did they become your enemy? When did that happen? Because I don't think that's the case. It doesn't make any sense to me. And so I hope that we begin to think about these things, think about the way we value education and the way we value each other, the way we value expertise and knowledge. And if we don't veer back in the other direction, we're in trouble. In my opinion, we're in trouble. Because today we are making bad decisions, and many of us are proud of those bad decisions. It's to the point where right now, I wear my mask when I go places, but I have seen situations where people almost look down on you for being such a fool as to wear a mask. Think about that. Think about, they say, well, we don't know enough about this, and you don't know if that mask is doing anything. And you're absolutely right. I don't know. I don't know what the mask is doing. I haven't read the studies, but the experts told me to wear a mask, so I'm wearing a mask. But think about this for a second. If I'm wrong, nothing bad happens, right? I wear my mask. Nobody gets sick because there's nothing to worry about. And it was a little bit of an inconvenience, but oh well, everybody lives. If you're wrong, if those of you who say that's silly, masks are dumb, you can't tell me what to do. If you're wrong, more people get sick, more people die. I don't understand how anyone thinks it makes any sense to make that gamble. And again, you only make that gamble because we don't value people anymore. We value ourselves, but we don't value people in general anymore. And so I believe that we have to address it. And understand that what I mean is I don't think the politicians can address this. I don't think they need to or want to. It's not their job, right? Well, maybe it is their job, but they're not doing it, so it doesn't matter. It's not logical to believe that there's any legislation that's going to fix any of this. We have to just be better. That's the thought I had to get out. So chew on that for a second. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a hole in my thoughts. And please let me know. Let me know in the comments what you think. And also let us know what else you would like to hear us discuss. And we're going to be just talking about stuff. And so let us know what you want to be talking about, because hopefully when we get this thing back up and running, we're going to make it, there's going to be a way for people to kind of interact so that it can be a more conversational style. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. So for now, that's all I've got. I'm Dr. Rueben Brock, and this is House Call.